This is a tadpole, and so is this. There's a slight age difference between the two that you've seen, but both of these little cutie pies live in my bedroom now. Before that though, they lived here. This is the ditch line behind my house. I know, not very exotic. This is where the water runs off the nearby hills and into my yard, but thanks to my ditch line, it goes straight into another water source and I don't have to worry about it. Normally, but recently we had a little bit of a landslide, and unfortunately that has caused my yard to start getting flooded and to be muddy and disgusting, and thus I need to dig it out. But lo and behold, what did I find but a bunch of beautiful little tadpoles rolling around in the mud. I needed to relocate them because not only would I need to dig this out, but as it currently is, when the days aren't as wet and rainy and it dries out a bit, some of these tadpoles, as a matter of fact, a lot of these tadpoles are stuck out in my yard with hardly any water, and honestly, it's a very sad sight. Not to worry, little fellas, Daddy's here. But you might be asking yourself, Rat Daddy, how are you going to move all of those tadpoles? Well, my friends, I introduce to you the jar. I bought this bad boy from a yard sale a few weeks ago for like $2 or $3. I plan on using it for a terrarium, but for today, we'll be using it to collect these majestic little specimens. Now, I collected as many as I could for the jar, but obviously there were way too many to fit into this and for me to take inside to rescue, so the others would need to be relocated somewhere else. Thankfully, there was another small little pond near my home where I could relocate the others. So I quickly snatched them up into a 5-gallon bucket, although you can't really tell as they're very hard to see and the water is very muddy, but trust me, they are in there. I triple checked and I even went back with a smaller little container to move what was left. And I quickly released them into this new water source. Look how happy they all seem to be running around in a larger body of water. I wish I could have kept them to give them a better chance at survival, but unfortunately my tank is not large enough. Nor was my muddy water jar, which I've been referring to as the Forbidden Creek Juice. By this point I had already relocated all the tadpoles, so I decided to treat myself and just kind of sit back and observe them for a little while. But eventually, I would have to bring them inside. That came off a little scarier than intended, but this is my 10-gallon fish tank where I will be relocating our tadpoles to. But tadpoles actually require a fresh water source. You can't use tap water, you can't use drinking water or distilled water. Thankfully, the same running water source that my ditch runs to just so happens to be right next to my home. Plenty of water to go around. My only issue was the only container I had to put the water in was a cooking pot. An old one. Don't worry, I'm not going to cook with it anymore. This was fine, but it could really only hold about a gallon of water at a time, so I would have to make many trips to go about filling up the fish tank. You won't have to watch that though, because you get to see the first and final pours of said water. Fresh from the Appalachian Mountains, now it's time for us to add our little compadres. Immediately after entering the tank, they were very eager about their new home. I was worried that they might kind of just stick in a clump and not really move around or anything like that, but they were very adventurous and very curious about everything in the tank. They also appeared to be cleaning up the tank a bit, looking for food and sucking up algae and whatever else they had entered with. It was really cool seeing them interact not only with each other, but also with the new environment that they all found themselves in. I did notice that the vast majority majority of them all kind of stayed at the bottom of the tank and just kind of tried to find food at all times. Can't really say that I blame them, although there were quite a few of them that were scanning the sides of their new home at all times as well, probably doing the same, looking for food. I thought it was really cool as well. You can see on their underbelly they have these little markings. I was curious what these little spirals were, so I decided to look them up online, at which point I found a Reddit post where someone was asking the same question, and another user said that this means they're from the Uzumaki clan. And you know what? That makes sense. Well, I'm just glad we got that sorted. No, but in all seriousness, apparently this is the tadpole's digestive tract, which is pretty cash money if you ask me. As I was waiting on the sediment to clear though, I actually started picking out and cleaning some of the larger pieces of vegetation that got in the tank along with the tadpoles. Now all I had to do was sit back and watch as the filter started cleaning the tank up. A few hours had passed and I came back, and yes indeed, the sediment in the tank seems to have cleared up a bit. Not so much floating around, but also, there weren't near as many tadpoles. Well, it was far too early for them to have sprouted legs and somehow got out of the tank, and yet the question remains, where did they all go? For a hot moment there, I would continue searching, and eventually I found our missing tadpoles. They had somehow made their way into the filtration system. Now, they were completely unharmed, as they were just sitting around in the spongy-like area here, and they're completely fine. There was no chance of them getting hurt either. I really just want to stress that. But without my help, they will be stuck in there. So the question remains, how did they get in there? Well, after a quick scan of the inside of the tank, I noticed that there is a small hole here for the filtration system to suck in water. And it would seem our adventurous little friendos managed to get inside there. I had a quick and easy solution to this. I was going to take a small piece of sponge and just kind of stuff into the hole. That way no tadpoles can get in, but water definitely could. At first I tried using a small rod to do the trick, but I ended up having to settle for using my hands. I put on a glove just simply because I know with toads and frogs, they can absorb things through your skin, and I was afraid of the same happening even if it was diluted by water and the tadpoles sucking it up. I didn't want to kill any of them or make them sick. Now with the sponge in place though, that should prevent our adventurous little amigos here from traveling back into the filtration system, and the main part of the tank here is completely full of all of them once more. And I think them getting up to no good has probably made them a bit hungry. Funny enough, fish flakes are actually a very nutritious meal for tadpoles as well, and I just happen to have some on standby. And I gotta tell you, they seem to really enjoy these fish flakes. It was really cool kicking back and watching them eat for a bit too. And with that, the first day of rescuing tadpoles was done, and to be honest with you, I'm pretty happy with how all this has went, and I think they are as well. They get a nice, new, safe home where I will be able to raise them and keep them fed at all times, instead of trying to survive out in the wild. By day 2, they were doing even better. As a matter of fact, it seemed like more of them were active, and instead of just staying on the bottom, they were kind of moving all around the tank, which I was happy to see. They almost seem even more social, I guess, with one another, but maybe that's just me overthinking things. Day 2 as well, I could also see that the filter had cleaned the tank much better because I could see all of the features of the tadpoles much better as well, such as their little specks, and I could even see them breathing. But tadpoles actually require more than just food and water. They also need sunlight so their bodies can absorb the vitamin D. So I bought them a sun lamp and put in an old broken lamp of mine. I was sure not to give them excessive exposure, as this could be detrimental for their health. I spotted this little beauty sometime after, who initially I thought was just a bit more mature, as he wasn't solid black like the other tadpoles, but upon further research, I think this one is actually a frog, while my other ones are toads. I'm not exactly a biologist though, so I definitely could be wrong, but I've decided to name this cute little fellow the Arbiter, which was a suggestion by my brother, actually. By the 4th day, I wanted to try some different food for them other than fish flakes, so I started boiling some lettuce because apparently they like this, although other tadpole owners online say that their tadpoles don't really care for it. I thought I'd try it anyway. I was sure to let the lettuce cool off for a good long time to ensure that I didn't boil my little babies alive. It may not seem like it makes a big difference, but the temperature difference between this lettuce and their cool tank and water surrounding them could be really bad for them. I dropped the boiled lettuce in and I didn't immediately see them all that attracted to it, but after a little while they were kinda nibbling on it, I suppose. But all in all, I still think that they much rather prefer their fish flakes instead. And I'll have to fish this lettuce out here shortly. But we tried. But as for now, that is going to be the end of our tadpole raising adventures. If you want to stay up to date with the tadpoles and myself and how they're growing and all that stuff, make sure that you like and subscribe and also turn on the notification bell. That way YouTube will let you know the next time I have some videos about our precious swimming little buddies here for you. I also did my very best to try to count them all, but it was a bit hard because they were all moving. Maybe I should have taken a picture. That's probably a better idea, but I think we have about 70 or so of them. Not exactly 100, but, you gotta leave room for error, a margin of error, I suppose. But anyhow, if you guys have name suggestions for the tadpoles, please leave them in the comment section down below, and I will do my very best to try to name them all. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later.